Welcome to episode 175 of On Record PR, a show where we talk about the strategies and insights that matter most to law firm leaders. Good morning, Gina.
Good morning. Monday.
I feel by now that people might know who we are, but just in case you're tuning in for the first time, I'm Jennifer Simpson Carr. I'm Furia Rubel's Vice President of Strategic Development.
And I'm Gina Rubel, the CEO and General Counsel of Furia Rubel. And I'm so excited, Jen, I've got to say it. It's episode 175. And it's a Monday morning. Didn't I say that already?
Yes. Yeah. It's Monday, the 28th of April, and we are just coming off of an incredible 40th anniversary LMA International Conference. It was a little bit different in feeling this year. I will say personally, there were some really honest conversations happening around what's transpiring in the world and the rule of law. But it is one of those conferences I always feel leaving energized and valued and supported and learning so much and absorbing from this incredible community that we have.
And Jen, I definitely want to give a big shout out to John Byrne and the co-chairs of the conference. First of all, to John for the transparency that he showed the first night after the keynote that talked about speech writing in the Obama times. I'm going to try to get Terry. I have no idea how to pronounce his last name correctly. It's Szuplat. I'm actually looking at his book right now. I'm going to try to get him on the podcast. They were fantastic. I was lucky enough to get a copy of his book, Say It Well. So, and the conference committee, they did a phenomenal job under incredibly difficult circumstances. So, I have to say it was one of the more rewarding conferences because we were all together. And no matter what side of the fence, and I talk about the fence having many sides above and below, we really had that opportunity to connect, to bond, and to support one another through a difficult time. And I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was a wonderful celebration of our incredible community and a reminder that, I mean, at this point, we had 1,400 attendees from across the world. I know that John and the committee shared all the various countries that were represented, but it does give us the sense that we're not in it alone, and there are incredible professionals around the world. I think you're grabbing something. I'm actually digging for my pin right now, and I can't find it in my bag. Yes.
So, this is a
Got it.
sticker that you knew exactly what I was doing. And this is my pin, and I have my pin on over here. Can you see it? There it is. What is this? So a number of us came together, I should say 5 of us, 5 independent individuals, not, this is not about any organization, but we created this logo. One of our members created it actually using Gen AI. The font is the font of the Constitution, and the purple is an equal mix of red and blue. And the idea is that we simply support the rule of law and the Constitution. And we're creating what we hope to be a grassroots movement. We've just registered protectruleoflaw.com. And since the conference, Jennifer, I'm mailing out several pins to people who asked for them. And we've gotten incredible feedback. So listeners, stay tuned for more with that.
And if you are listening and not looking, Gina and I were holding up quickly these beautiful purple rule of law pins and stickers that they created with this beautiful gold writing. So just if you heard us holding things up, that's what it was.
Thanks, Jen. I forgot that we're doing a podcast and not a video recording per se.
So our topic for today is tackling a crucial question that we heard answered during the general counsel keynote this year. And it is, what do clients really value when choosing and working with law firms? And so the panel was comprised of incredible professionals who really kept it very honest but lighthearted and gave some beautiful quotes and stories that we'll share. The panelists were Eric Dodson Greenberg. He's the EVP and General Counsel, Corporate Secretary of Cox Media Group. Lillian Howard Potter, Head of Enforcement, Compliance, and Investigations Office at Ericsson, and Belinda Nixon, Vice President, General Counsel, and Corporate Secretary at Internet 2. The session was moderated by our dear friend Tasmin Koka, Managing Director at Growth Play. Hi, Tasmin. And
she did a fantastic job and really kept the conversation going.
so we're going to dive through the top takeaways, and we are going to provide some quotes and stories, but we are not going to attribute them to any specific panelist. So let's start with thought leadership, which was a really key topic throughout the entire conversation. Were there any thoughts that you had, Gina, that you took away from the thought leadership topic?
Well, I'll say this, it wasn't surprising, but it validates what many of us have said in the past, that clients, AKA corporate counsel and the like, don't want a one size fits all approach. They want to hear about updates in the laws that matter to them. They want them short, specific, and tailored, especially when the legal landscape is shifting. Again, it's Monday morning so quickly. One GC said it's incredibly helpful when a firm sends a quick note saying, here's what happened and here's why it matters or doesn't matter to you. And it's not about flooding their inboxes. I should remind our listeners too, it's not just relevance, it's also timeliness. Don't forget, if it takes 10 people to edit that alert, by the time you get it out, 10 other firms have already sent it. So I think that's really important. And Jen, I know you probably have a story to share on that one as well.
Well, something that I took away from that particular GC's comments was the impact of saying, here's something that's happening, and here's why you shouldn't be worrying about it. And it's another perspective. And the reason that I thought that was a great takeaway is it positions him, the general counsel, internally among his stakeholders, the C-suite executives and, other individuals, so that when that topic comes up internally, he can say, we're aware of it and it's actually not going to impact us, and here's why we shouldn't be worrying about it. So it was really about positioning him as a thought leader internally amongst key stakeholders in the organization.
I can't help but think, Jen, and this isn't sponsored. This isn't, our podcast isn't sponsored, but how like the new Passel product would support getting things out quickly and not just quickly, but getting these changes in the law to GCs customized based on the topics and things like that. We went to that program that James did about, it was really geared towards business development, but this is an exact scenario where that kind of platform would work. So we're not paid to sell for anyone. I just share that because that was one of it's nice to see how the different programs all tie in together. Mm-hmm. So GCs are saying this, well, what's the software that's going to help us do that? So that's just impromptu. And hi, James.
So another takeaway that we kind of came up with as a theme was that reputation matters, which we know, but reputation doesn't tell the full story of a law firm. So Gina, any thoughts from this particular takeaway that you want to share?
So when it comes down to it, service wins every time. And there was they had questions that we all had to answer on our mobile apps. And they say this every single time: service trumps price, service trumps price, service trumps price. So it's really about having those brands that are unmatched in service, and they're always going to be the ones that get the work. And some of the stakeholders don't even recognize top ranked firms. What they notice is how well the firm delivers for them. And so, and that reminds me of something they talked about, and we're probably getting to it next in the RFP. So if we're getting to that next, I'll hold off.
Now go dive into it.
Well, it was interesting. They talked about when you put people forward for an RFP, whether you're in a meeting or a live meeting or virtual, let your associates talk. And, it's interesting, Jen, I am as guilty as most lawyers in that I get so excited when we're on a new business call that I have to remind myself every time to let somebody else talk. So I'm like, oh, this is so exciting. And I enjoy it. And I know that oftentimes I'll go, I think I'm going to be quiet now and let my colleagues speak. So that
Heard
hit
that a couple
home for me.
times.
It did hit home for me.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of stories shared on this one too.
Yeah, what I thought was really interesting was the fact that in certain matters, there are C-suite executives and other stakeholders that might be more involved in the decision-making process around who they choose to represent them because they care so deeply about a specific matter. Normally, the GC and the legal department will decide, but the more involved or the more invested the C-suite or other stakeholders are in the matter, the more say they'll want to have and who represents them. And so it was interesting to hear that name recognition or the ranking recognition wasn't the deciding factor. It was really how those stakeholders felt about the meetings or about the connection they had or the relationship that was built during the proposal process. And so, as someone who works closely with our prospects and determines, along the way how we're going to move forward as potential partners to a law firm, it was interesting to hear that relationship reinforced how important that relationship piece is as clients are potentially, developing a relationship that will last long term.
And I have to give a shout out to the individual who is sitting on stage mansplaining, because that made me laugh.
Mhm.
And that individual was fantastic. So anyway, I
So
just
good.
shout out. I did hear that.
That was a great story.
It was.
So that's a good segue to relationships. They're really the driver, kind of takeaway three was that relationships are really the driver behind law firm loyalty. And so clients talk about being authentic and having personal outreach. And it's not just about spamming with the latest news and thought leadership. So,
What a
Gina, what were your
concept.
thoughts on that?
It's just relationship 101. And what I think is one of my frustrations in the professional services industry is across the board and with law firms is that lawyers think somebody else should do that for me. But these are still relationships. And depending on your firm makeup, if the law firm owns the client or if you have some different relationship, it's still you doing the work and it still is your relationship, especially when, you're the originate, you get the origination fees, things like that. So it's important to be authentic, to do personal outreach, should be coming from your personal email box. What a concept.
Mhm.
Um, it's really not about mass invitations, glossy newsletter. Somebody mentioned newsletters. I haven't seen a glossy newsletter in a long time, folks. And our company's, I think 24 years old this year. So it's been quite a while. If you're still doing those, stop, please. Stop killing trees. It's just, and they also said, we still want to go to lunch. We still want to
Yes.
go get a coffee. Like, we don't just want, and look, if you have a client and they're across the country, schedule a coffee Zoom and and they didn't say this, but I'm saying it, find out what their local coffee shop is and send them a gift card. So there's so many opportunities to do so much.
One of the stories that really resonated with me was the invitations and the personalization, how it makes a difference. And one of the panelists actually shared that they were attending an annual conference. And of course, as a GC, received every possible invite to every law firm sponsored event. And the one they chose to attend is the one they received a personal email from a lawyer from their inbox and said, this event that we're hosting, I really hope you can attend, and it's really for the clients that we love, to work with and we want to spend more time with. And that is the one event the general counsel chose to attend. And so to your point, Gina, it's not about having someone else press the button and making sure it makes it to an inbox. It's about taking the extra time to extend a personal message and say, you matter, our relationship matters, and it matters enough that I'm going to take the time to send you a private message.
And Jen, I couldn't agree more, but with that, we need to take a message from our sponsor.
Yes, thank you.
This episode is brought to you by Furia Rubel Communications, a public relations and marketing agency serving law firms and businesses worldwide. With an expert team positioned throughout the U.S. and supported by an international faculty, Furia Rubel enhances our clients' brands through integrated communications by providing expert guidance in crisis management and high-profile litigation, protecting brand and reputation, and supporting internal marketing teams. To learn more, visit furiarubel.com.
So thank you for the reminder, Gina. We're back from our sponsor message, and we have two more key points to run through. The next one is responsiveness and billing, and this was really interesting to me. Let's start with your kind of thoughts and takeaways from this.
Well, let's talk about responsiveness. This is not news. This is nothing new. Like return your phone calls. And I have to say, yeah, I'm just as guilty of having a ridiculous inbox and messages coming in on my cell phone, just about everywhere. I actually take screenshots now of stuff that I have to do that comes in on LinkedIn or Facebook and email them to myself to remember, because it's insane the number of messages we get in a day. But you have to find some way to be responsive. That's number one. Have out of offices on, have somebody else who can follow up. I'm working on that. With regard to billing, clients notice every mistake. You have to be fully transparent. And as an agency, we do have some contracts that are based on hours, many contracts based on hours, because we do professional services work. And so a lot of time, every month, our account manager audits the billable time, make sure there's no duplicates, make sure there's enough explanation. It's not always that easy. So, you have to go through that. They want accuracy, timeliness, transparent building, all of which they said strengthens relationships. And even small gestures like writing off time for efficiency send us a really powerful message about that partnership. And they all validated that.
I was really surprised personally to hear how obvious to the clients it is that billing can damage a relationship that partners and associates and their client teams have worked so hard to build. One of the short stories shared like made me take a deep breath because a law firm billing department sent a bill for less than $400 to a GC for work that had been completed 6 months prior. And it was clearly just an automatic process, and no one looked at the bill before it went out. So not only did the law firm take the time to produce and send it, it then took the GC's time to look at it. And what gave him pause or them pause, whoever had said it, is the fact that if nobody's paying attention to the bills, what else is the law firm not paying attention to? And what a powerful message for anyone listening that has worked their entire career or even the last year to build a really strong relationship with a client, and how quickly that trust and relationship can be eroded just by a simple billing error.
And it's laziness is what it is. It's just laziness. I'm sorry, but we're all busy. And I just got 2 invoices recently, one for work that was done, gosh, December. It was done in December. My last year's books are closed, right? So, and then I'm like, what is this about? Why do and I have to take time and then follow up, and it's laziness. And
Mhm.
it reminds me of mom and pop shops who, may not have the time, like landscapers, maybe they send them 3 months out late, or, because they don't have the additional support. But law firms, come on,
Mhm.
tracking and billing time, if that's how your firm runs, on the billable hour and not on other billing methodologies. I know nobody likes to hear alternative fee arrangements anymore. It's just got to be done on time, or don't do it, or just don't send that bill. Eat the $400.
All right. So you alluded to this earlier, Gina, but one of the most, I think, important and powerful insights we heard is that clients care deeply about who is doing the work, not just the lead partner. And this was a big topic of conversation. What were your takeaways?
Well, it's the same that we've always had. Don't do the bait and switch. Same thing that we do. We're on a new business call with a law firm. You are very mindful to make sure we have the whole team on the call, that we talk about who's actually going to be doing the work. It's usually not me, unless it's crisis response, issues management, trial advocacy. So it's really important that they talk to who's going to be doing the work, not just the person who brought the business in. And they want to meet them during the pitches. They want to hear their experiences. And again, not just hear, the lead person, such as myself, ramble on.
Well, and making sure that if you're bringing people to the meeting, they have equal opportunity or some opportunity to speak. One of the GCs noted that bringing people to a Zoom meeting and then having members of the team sit there silently also sends a message. And in one of the stories that was shared was that in one proposal process, the client insisted that they meet the number twos. And if you're listening, I'm putting air quotes up, but don't just send the person that can close the business or is the relationship partner. They want to meet the individuals who are going to be in the trenches day to day doing the work and having the real relationship. So bring your associates, give them opportunities, prep them, and set them up for success. Gina, you always say rules and tools. Maybe
Mhm.
you can touch on that for just a second, because I think that's a really important part of setting other team members up for success in these meetings.
It's interesting that you asked that, because I was going to say rules are basically, and it doesn't have to sound so strict, but
Mhm.
giving your associates, here's how we do things, here's how we dress, here's how, what we'd like you to present, being prepared, all of those things. But it's also sharing the ground rules, as you will, with the prospective or current client. And what I mean by that is, let's say you have a 1L student, or a 1L who you want to participate, or an intern who you want to participate, for them to learn. It's okay to say, this is why this person is here. And while are going to be listening,
Mhm.
but they're not, this isn't somebody who's going to be working on the account later on. And these are the people who are participating. So when I say set the ground rules, that's kind of what I mean. And then the tools, whenever we have a new business meeting, before we've gotten on it, you've prepped everyone with a dossier, literally a dossier. Here's who's going to be on the call. Here's their background. Here's what they've shared their goals are thus far. Here's what we still need to find out. Like, you've already done the game work, the homework. I don't know where
Game
game work.
plan, homework.
Game plan, homework. That's exactly, yes, that's what we call a Gina-ism. So, so it really does matter. and giving everybody that opportunity to speak with the prospect and to share their insights.
So I think that those are great takeaways. I know that many times we hear OGC panels and in the context of, oh, they're all the same. This was not the same. This was insightful. Yes, some of these may sound familiar takeaways, but the stories that they shared and the emotion that they put into this panel really made it special. At least from my perspective, I thought it was incredible and impactful.
And I want to add one thing. What was interesting is, and I want lawyers listening to hear this, there were 5 poll questions, and every single time the legal marketers answering them were on the same page as the GCs. So if you have in-house legal business professionals, listen to them, because we know what we're talking about. And I can't say that more. I just can't stress that more.
It's a really good point. Every single time the legal marketing team was aligned with the GC's feedback.
Every time.
Wasn't surprising to us, but might be surprising to some of our listeners. So I guess the bottom line today is that what we learned overall is that clients want more than credentials. There's an opportunity to make a deeper connection. They want a trusted partner. They want someone who listens, who is responsive, who delivers value, and views them as more than just another account or another client at the firm, who really views them as a trusted business partner. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. We are so grateful that you check in with us every week. We hope you found this episode valuable. If you did, please subscribe, consider leaving a review, sharing it with friends and colleagues. We welcome and continue to appreciate the feedback and ideas that you send to us at onrecordpr.com. And we look forward to seeing you next week.
Thanks, Jen. See you later.
On Record PR is produced by Jennifer Simpson Carr and Matt Henderson, with support from the team at Furia Rubel Communications. This episode is edited by Isabel Horan and Christian Yamula. Visit www.onrecordpr.com for resources and more information.